How are you, Shudra?
Fine.
How are you?
Fine.
You're fine. Where are you coming from? Hmm?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching or at whatever point you get this video. Thank you for watching this video. Welcome back to Rose Salwa. Here we are about vulnerability, acceptance and hope. It's exciting to be here alone today. This is a spectacular moment that I can do a video on my own. Though on a borrowed channel. Well, I remember it was on the 26th of April that we premiered a video that we called Being Unequally Yoked. Do not be unequally yoked makes submission easier. And Rose talked about the perspective of submission. Allow me today to bring to our attention that that submission is actually in response to love, because the Bible says that husbands are to love their wives as Christ did love the church, that he actually gave himself, meaning that he actually died for the church. And so if we want to love well, if we want to be submitted to as husbands, the best way to the beginning point is actually at the area of finding who is that person that you're going to love. And as we are saying, that being unequally yoked with unbelievers is the beginning point, that you shouldn't be yoked together with those who are not of the faith, because then that will make it almost impossible, if not impossible, very difficult to love such a person, because the unbeliever cannot love as Christ loved the church. And so as a husband, in the process of finding that lady, finding that spouse, number one qualification is that one must be given to Christ, must be submitted to Jesus Christ, must be born again. And basically that is what the Bible means when it says do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, because the troubles that come with people of different worldview, different value system, different desires and passions, it is based on the faith that one subscribes to. So if you are yielded to Jesus Christ, he also dictates and informs the things that you love, the things that you enjoy, the things that you know, even how you communicate is actually Christ. It is part of your submission to Jesus Christ. And even our loving, how we love one another, it is also dependent on how we are submitted to Jesus Christ. So if you want to be able to love your partner as Christ loved the church, the beginning point is that at the point of choosing that partner, she must be born again. Now, when we talk about loving as Christ loved the church, what does that really mean? To my thinking, it actually means that we need to look at who is Christ and who is the church. Of course, we know that Christ is God, Christ is the Son of God, Christ is the creator of the universe, Christ is the one who, who holds the universe together and everything together. In fact, it is Christ who has the best example of how it looks like to love. He is the clearest picture of how God actually loves a people. And Christ's love is not dependent on how good we are. In fact, it is said that it's written in the Bible that God's demonstration of his love was actually that while we were still sinners, while we were still estranged from God, he came and died for us. So Christ loved the church by dying for the church. And a husband, for you to display that love, that you're going to die on behalf of your wife, is actually the greatest expression of love. But you see, we don't have to die physically, and that is not what the Bible is referring to as loving our wives to the extent that Christ loved the church. When it says that we need to love as Christ loved the church to the extent that he died for the church, I believe strongly that Christ is calling us to die to ourselves. You know, that ego, you know how you feel like, and we who are raised perhaps in the African setting, there are certain things when it comes to roles and responsibilities, there are certain perceptions that we have about men, about women, and perhaps the way we have been cultured and socialized kind of puts a man up there and leaves a woman down here. Now Christ is calling us to die to that egocentric way of looking at women and come down to the extent that we are able then to relate with one another as equal partners in this love relationship. So Christ loved the church by dying for the church, and that is the calling that believers have, that we need to love our wives as Christ loved us. You see, Christ loved the church, a people that have submitted to him. That is what the church is, a people that have believed in him. And so we cannot love somebody that has not yet submitted to Jesus Christ in the same way that you actually love someone that is already given to Christ. And so, friends, if you want to love as Christ loved the church, the choice, I've said, begin by choosing somebody who is born again. Because the chances are that the things that they will love are things that you also love. The things that they will enjoy doing are actually things that you can, even if you don't know at the moment, you can actually learn to enjoy. And it won't be an issue of living in a sinful way. For example, let me give a practical example. If, for example, I met my wife and she was already born again, we personally, even before we met, I loved going out for, not for parties though, but for missions. And because we were both, and we are both of us born again, it was easy for us to actually take long trips together, and that created a lot of time for us to be able to interact and connect and even learn one another during those mission experiences that we had. So that is one thing that we realized, that, oh, my wife loves mission, I also love mission. You see, someone who loves Jesus will not struggle loving people, because they know that Jesus wants them to love people. And someone who does not love Jesus may segregate people, may love people based on what they are able to offer, what they are able to give. But that is not the kind of love that Jesus is calling specifically to us as husbands, that we love our wives just as he did. You need a wife, or you need a spouse that actually loves God first, prioritizes God, makes God the primary object of their love. So that if I am loving my wife, I am loving because I am already loved, and I have met that love of God. You know, I've experienced that love of God. So that out of the abundance of that love that God has already showered me with, poured in me with, then I am able to relate. Now, of course, that may be through maybe buying flowers, that may be part of it, but more importantly is the life experience that you are actually going to have with this person. When we get married, probably before we get married, we are going for dates and all these things that are going to spice our relationship. even the places that you will be able to go for those dates. Those of you who are still single and you are in that process of identifying a spouse, the places that you will want to take your girl to, actually, if they love Jesus Christ, they will never ask you to take them to a club, to go out drinking alcohol or such things. They will actually take you to a more favorable place where both of you would not be tempted to fall into sin before you get married. That is because this person loves Christ and you love Christ, so you are only being yoked together with someone who is actually like you, especially on the area of faith. He or she is actually a believer. So, lady and gentleman who is listening to me this hour, and you are in that process of identifying the person that you spend the rest of your life with, the cardinal requirement is do not be unequally yoked to the unbeliever. Because if you get yoked to the unbeliever, you will actually do things like the unbeliever. Because really, marriage, when it comes to marriage, it is give and take. It is more of a compromise. That I can't always have my way. And part of what Christ is calling, particularly on husbands to do, is actually to die to self. Given a chance, a man, if allowed to rule themselves and to lead themselves, men by nature are very selfish people. They want the best for themselves. They want to be seen as kings, and it's okay to be seen as a king. But when that becomes the primary focus, you can easily begin to treat your wife as a subject, as one who is not worth of love, and treat them as a slave. So the best way is actually to acknowledge that, first of all, this person must have experienced Jesus for themselves, believes in Jesus. Then that basic foundational value system is going to inform everything else that you are actually going to do. You see, we normally ask ourselves, even before we do something, we ask ourselves, what would Jesus do if he was in this situation? So as I am at home, and my wife is there, and there are chores in the house, there are issues that we need to deal with in the house. Sometimes there are moments when my wife is vulnerable in terms of maybe she's tired, maybe she's weak, maybe she's unwell, and at that time, the question as a man that I need to ask myself is, what would Jesus do? And now that I am here, and I am married to this daughter of God, this girl who believes in Jesus, the same Jesus I believe in, the question I ask myself is, what would Jesus do? And so, whatever Jesus would do, if it is cleaning those utensils, I will do it, because that is the best way I can express my love for my wife. If it is washing those babies, that is what I want to do. If it is changing those diapers and cleaning up the children, if Jesus would do that, then that is what I want to do. And for a fact, Jesus was a selfless man. He was a man who cared, who considered the welfare of others more than his own welfare. He didn't so count so much on his own ego to say that, I am the Son of God, I am the one who created you, and blah, 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 and esteem himself higher than everybody else. But the Bible actually tells us that he humbled himself. He did not consider equality with God something to hold on to, but instead, he took the form of a servant and became. So, if you want to express the best way to express your love for your wife and even make her submit to you, brother, serve your wife. Serve your wife. Sacrifice your ego. Sacrifice your pleasures. Sacrifice you for the sake of your wife. And if your wife flourishes, you are a happy man. If your wife is happy, life is going to be easy and she won't struggle to submit to you. I would have said a little bit more, but permit me just to stop there and say the way to love your wife as Christ loved the church begins by ensuring that you are married to one who is a believer. From here at Rose Talwa, it's now time to tell you bye-bye. Please remember to subscribe and even click the notification bell so that next time we have a video, you'll be able to get this. God bless you. See you.